Thank you. Thank you for coming here. We're in Richmond today to talk with homeowners and businesses and farmers who have been adversely affected by the Cowichan tribe's decision of August of 2025. I'm here with my colleague Chak Au, Member of Parliament for Richmond Centre Marpole, and Andrew Scheer from Regina Capel, and our House Leader, and he will have some more to say about what the Conservative Party has been doing in the House of Commons to stand up for property rights. I'm very pleased that our party is taking this issue seriously. Our leader, Pierre Poilievre, has appointed me as chair of a Conservative Party task force on property rights. And this follows on the decision of the Cowichan tribes of the BC Supreme Court last year. For the first time in Canadian history, a Canadian court has declared Aboriginal title on privately held lands. That's never happened before. There have been decisions of declarations of Aboriginal title, but it was always on Crown land or public lands. First time in Canadian history that a plaintiff group claimed Aboriginal title on private lands, and the first time, of course, that the court declared that to have been the case. And this has had adverse effect on our economy, on individuals, of course, but also on our economy. Before I was elected to Parliament, I was a real estate development lawyer, and we always banked on indefeasibility of title. There was never a question about whether title was secure, whether it was a good tenure, whether people could get mortgages on the security of their title. But after this Cowichan tribe's decision, that has now been called into question. Madam Justice Young said that in one of her statements. She says, one of the precedents arising from this case is that Section 23 and 25 of the Land Title Act do not apply to Aboriginal title. Well, that's a very, very big and significant decision, and we say that it is a wrong decision, and it was a direct result of Crown lawyers pulling some of their punches when they were arguing this case. And it went on for 500 days, by the way. So they had a lot of opportunity to defend property rights for private owners, and they held back. They did not use all the tools in their toolbox, and consequently it made it much easier for the judge to declare that that there was Aboriginal title even on the private lands. And she said, well, Aboriginal title and fee simple title can coexist on the same piece of land, and we're saying that that is impossible. That is just going to bring confusion into the marketplace, and importantly, it sets reconciliation backwards. And so the Conservative Party is very much in favor of finding ways of reconciliation with our First Nations, but threatening private landowners with the security of their title is not the way forward. So maybe, Andrew, I can pass it over to you, and you can tell us what's happening in the House.
Well, as my colleague has said, we heard from a wide variety of voices today, individual homeowners, developers, municipal politicians. Mayor Malcolm from Richmond was here, and they all had the same message, that this case has caused a great deal of anxiety and uncertainty. People are anxious about what will happen when their mortgage comes up for renewal. Developments that were proposed to help alleviate the housing crisis are now being questioned. There are cases where banks are unsure of whether or not they will finance either mortgages or development loans. So the Conservative Party believes that the Liberals made a massive mistake when they ordered their government lawyers not to defend private property rights in this case. Directive 14 was a specific guideline to federal government lawyers in this case, instructing them not to use the arguments around private property rights in this case. So we're here today with a very important message. On Monday, this coming Monday, there will be a vote in the House of Commons calling on the government to reverse this directive, to replace the directive not to argue private property rights with a directive ordering government lawyers to defend the property rights of homeowners here in Richmond, in Vancouver, throughout British Columbia, and indeed across all of Canada. So that vote takes place around noon BC time this coming Monday. And we are asking the people of British Columbia, especially here in the Vancouver area, to contact their Liberal and NDP MPs to ask them to vote in favor of our motion. This is a nonpartisan motion. This is a motion that is common sense. It does a few things. It calls on the government to reverse its decision on that Directive 14, but also in going forward in any other negotiations, whether it's court cases or whether it's First Nation agreement with First Nations, to ensure that private property ownership is enshrined in any new agreement going forward. So if you believe that your deed, that your title to your home is a sacred entrustment that you can be sure of, owning your own home, owning your own farmland, if you believe that is important, please get engaged. Let your Liberal and NDP MPs know this is an important issue and that you'll be watching that vote on Monday. This is a vote that will have meaningful impact. If the government adheres to this motion being passed, then hopefully we can get the Liberal government to admit their mistake, reverse their decision, and on a go-forward basis defend those private property rights.
I just want to add that since the Cowichan ruling was passed last August, I've seen the impact on the people in Richmond and also the impact on the business. And this impact are real. That people have difficulties to finance their business or their home, or getting other kind of investment coming into the company or the business. So the argument that this is this kind of impact is just imaginary, it's not true. It affects the people's livelihood in Richmond and beyond. So I hope that with our motion next Monday, we can turn a new page on this case, that the Liberal government would commit to repeal the directive given to the lawyers previously, and also to use all kinds of arguments to defend private property rights.
Kevin Chirac with CTV News Vancouver. So I believe it was said that earlier on the Cowichan case had an adverse effect on our economy. Can you just describe how it's had an adverse effect?
I'll give one example, which is fairly high profile and is public information. Montrose Properties is the largest land owner in the area, in the affected area. And they had a project that was ready to go. They're land developers. They build warehouses and they lease them out. They had a project that was ready to go. And the Cowichan decision came along and the bank pulled their financing, and they had tenants lined up, and the tenants also couldn't or had trouble getting bank financing. So that project is on hold. Montrose is making an application to the BC Supreme Court to reopen the case and for them to be added as a party so that they can stand up for private property rights. You can find information on the Montrose Properties website. This is all public information.
And this follow-up is for MP Scheer. With the vote coming on Monday, the Cowichan case is being appealed. Would this vote potentially have any impact on the appeal process there?
Well, specifically, our motion calls on the government to replace the directive to lawyers not to defend private property rights with the directive to defend private property rights. So that would be a very substantial change in approach. We believe it was a mistake for the Liberal government not to stand up for homeowners, for farmers. We believe that the federal government should aggressively defend the rights of those homeowners. And so if this motion passes and the government heeds it, then we do believe that this will be a positive development to defend private property rights going forward.
Let's move along the line. Joe Sadowski, City News Vancouver. What have you heard from the homeowners? Like, what has, you said that there's an economic impact for them as well. Can you be specific as far as how this has affected them so far?
Well, we heard from individuals who are saying that they are not certain, they haven't got that certainty from their banks that when their mortgages are up for renewal, that the banks will actually extend the mortgage, because the banks are not sure what the impact of this case is. So as homeowners are approaching the renewal dates, there's just a tremendous amount of anxiety. They can't get clear answers because this case is lingering out there. You can imagine what that does to people. You know, when mortgages are up for renewal, it's a stressful time for many couples, many families, as they try to secure the best rate possible. And if there's any risk, if there's any extra risk, they're worried that that's going to either increase costs, or worst of all, that they're not going to be able to continue owning their home because the banks just won't extend that mortgage. So we heard a lot of anxiety, a lot of uncertainty today at today's meeting.
And First Nations leaders here in our province have said that they're not interested in private property, and they've repeatedly said that over and over. What's your response to that? And I'll open it up to the three of you. And is there, what's your response to the First Nations leaders who have continuously said that this issue that you're speaking of is not an issue at all?
Yeah. So, we're hearing this after the case is over. A good time for them to have said that they were not coming after private property would have been at the commencement of the litigation. But I would point out that they did claim Aboriginal title over not only the 800 acres that the judge found and agreed with, but over 1,800 acres, including private property, and that was their decision to make. There was another decision of about a dozen years earlier. The Chilcotin decision was a much bigger piece of land, of course, up in the Caribou area, where the plaintiff First Nation group carefully steered around private property. They did not want to have a showdown with private property owners, and the Cowichan tribes in this case had a different litigation strategy. They went after private property rights. So it rings a bit hollow for them to say they're not interested in private property. They are.
I also want to add that, because my ride is in Richmond, so I heard from the homeowners and business people directly about the impact on them. Apart from, what's been already mentioned, Montrose properties, I have so many private property owners. Number one, they worry about the certainty of the titles. Number two, they worry about whether or not they can get an extension of the mortgage when it's time for renewal. Number three, publicly, there's a senior couple saying that they want to sell their apartment for retirement, and they couldn't find a buyer. And also, there are other property owners in the same kind of situation. They want to sell, but nobody's buying. And regarding on the issue of not making a claim on private properties, I know that the city of Richmond has made a public letter asking the First Nations to make it into a legally binding statement that they are not going after private properties. So I think everybody is trying to get a certainty on the kind of statement that the First Nations has made. But up to now, I think we are still waiting for that kind of certainty.
So do you think the government can do extra things to make sure they benefit? Like if somebody can get the mortgage, the Ottawa or I don't know, the BC government should give them some subsidy or compensations about that? Is that possible?
So the provincial government under David Eby, shortly after the decision came down, said that they would be ready, willing, and able to backstop some mortgages, which might be the right thing to do, but it certainly underlines that David Eby also understands that this decision is having a very serious impact on the economics of the titles in that area. Whether that's the right solution is for this decision to be appealed to the Court of Appeal. Eventually, it'll probably end up at the Supreme Court of Canada, and for this decision to be reversed. I don't think that it helps reconciliation to threaten private landowners with the security of their title.
How does UNDRIPA conflict, or does it conflict with your motion?
Well, DRIPA is a provincial piece of legislation, but the principle of private property ownership is something that we believe is of national concern. And we believe that, as my colleague has said, that by threatening the property rights, by threatening homeowners, by threatening farmers, with the fear of either losing their title or not being able to renew mortgages or lending on it, that sets reconciliation back. There's been a lot of progress over the years at all levels of government to get aspects of reconciliation right. This is not one of those ways. This is the first decision in Canadian history that annuls someone's, cancels, extinguishes someone's own title to their own home or their own piece of land. So that's why we're bringing this motion forward. We believe that it's important to get this certainty as quickly as possible. In relation to the last question we had about what can be done, ultimately the best thing that we can do is to get this decision reversed and settle it once and for all Canadians across Canada, throughout BC, throughout all the other provinces, that when you own your property, when you buy that piece of land, that home, that condo, that piece of farmland, whatever it is, when you get that title to that land, that is yours, that is a sacred trust between the individual citizen, and the government. And that's what our motion aims to achieve, is to provide that certainty for all Canadians.
As you know, your colleague Michael Chang is visiting Taiwan right now, and Beijing not happy about it. And because the China ambassador to Canada has already warned Ottawa should not have any MPs visiting to Taiwan. So is any response? What's your view about this matter?
Well, we believe that Canada should set our own foreign policy. We don't believe that any other country sets Canada's foreign policy and our approach to dealing with issues in any region of the country. In any region of the world. And I'll refer you to Michael Chang's statement himself. I think he explained it very well in his statement. And Conservatives just very much believe that Canadians, through their elected government, decide Canada's foreign policy.